Three unfold. Back to the... Good morning, everybody. It is a wonderful, beautiful sunrise here on the Gulf Coast of Texas, down in Starbase, just gone 7 o'clock in the morning, and we are live because Ship 37, well, it's doing some testing things again. For those of you joining us yesterday, we'll get into details of what happened, but it didn't really go according to plan. So SpaceX has got another closure window, the road's been closed, and everybody is getting ready. We've got an OEM vent going, we've got the tank farm going, fingers crossed we see some propellant flowing very shortly into Ship 37. So yeah, maybe we'll get a little bit of some engine testing going on in not the too distant future. Anyways, my name is Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us today on NSF. Of course, whenever something happens, we go live. So fingers crossed we get to see something today. And alongside me, someone who knows quite a lot about Starship. We call him the Falconologist, but he also knows a lot about Starship. Alex, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. It's been a weird night because we had 2 launches yesterday, but no static fire, no spin prime, no whatever they wanted to do yesterday with Ship 37. I guess we're gonna have to, we will never know what they were trying yesterday. What they're trying today, though, we'll see. Hopefully, I think based on the timings and everything, could be maybe in the next hour or so. We'll see. They also I think they only recently cleared the pad as well. There were still cars around the area and things like that. So yeah, yesterday they tried to go for a test of Ship 37. And as soon as they started propellant load, we start seeing some of those pipes, those flex hoses attached to 37. One of them at the very least seemed like it was dripping something. It didn't look great. And so, yeah, they went overnight. They seem to have maybe even replaced it completely. Like, not even just looked at it and fixed it, but maybe even replaced it. And right now, we are just here looking at the OLM getting chilled. You can see those 2 big pipes, very frosty, those white pipes. They're not white by default. They're white right now because there's really cold liquid oxygen and liquid methane flowing through those, and so that's why they are frosty. The next thing should be that oil and vent stopping, and then we'll get into propellant load. You see those 2 big pipes. Now, as for what we expect today, yesterday we were expecting a spin prime. I would not expect any different from that today. Because there's really cold yesterday, just like they had that issue with that hose, and they aborted that test, right? So I would expect potentially a spin prime. There's multiple reasons why I expect the next thing should be that oil and vent stopping. If we get a static fire, though, we'll come to propellant of ship. Anyway, now as for what we expect today, yesterday so that's sort of like where we are right now. White as usual. They're white. The other things that we yesterday say, like they had that issue with that hose. We'll answer your question. We also have now. So I would expect potentially a spin prime. So bit of frosty. That's why he didn't mention any operator, because he is also not only on commentary but also operating the stream.
Forgetting to mention the operator.
Exactly.
One in the same.
So I was doing that to save you some time, but yeah, and also we have now at NSF. You can both do at NASA Space Flight or at NSF, and it also any operator, because he is also not only on commentary but also.
Look at the questions coming in, of course, as I said, tag us in chat with your questions and comments. We have Eleanor asking if there is a timeline estimate for this testing. So I don't know if you could just do a little rundown of when things are happening. All of the people joining us this morning.
Yeah, so I would expect something, if not at the top of the hour, a little bit afterwards. Obviously, as I was saying, it seemed like they cleared the area just very like, even as they were doing the OLM vent, there were still cars at the entrance to the launch site. I have not looked at it for like the past 10 minutes. I couldn't answer you if it's
But
even fully
fully
completely clear by now. Because there's also a lot of venting now from that event, and there's like tons of fog around the site. So, but yeah, I mean, we are hoping to see maybe something on that launch mount, a test of Ship 37, hopefully in the next hour and a half. That's sort of we'll get the better estimates once we get that oil event to stop. We go into propellant load, then some of the timings are less subjective. But there you can see that I mean, that's a blanket of this oxygen that they are venting.
I have to say, the early morning launches that they did from Flight 1 to Flight 5, the timing in terms of having to, be up really early, stay up all night, was horrific. But the visuals were stunning, and it's the exact same kind of time of day right now. And you can see the cursed image of a ship on the OLM with this beautiful sunrise behind it, and then this just blanket of liquid oxygen covering the landscape, and you've got that beautiful reflection in the water as well. I mean, this is just absolutely stunning.
In hindsight, you know what, Ryan, they should have built all of that ground infrastructure first, and then done the suborbital hops from there. It will have looked really cool.
Yeah.
Instead of building the suborbital pads and all that.
Well, we're still waiting. There's a lot of venting going on. It's coming up to 10 minutes past 7 in the morning local time. And fingers crossed we see something exciting happening pretty soon. Over on the road, there is still the police set up there, the sheriff blocking off the road. Looked like he's having a chat with someone, maybe one of his colleagues. But that's the usual procedure that we see, right, Alex?
Yeah, they're just there at the usual roadblock. Usually there's like cops that come and go, they change positions and things like that. But yeah, it's the usual stuff. It's when they go down to the launch site what we don't want to see. That's the thing that we don't want to see.
We have a couple questions here about the exact kind of testing we're thinking we'll be seeing today. We have a question. Well, first of all, Sam is saying, please can we have a poll for static fire or spin prime? And then next to that as well, Mr. Banana is asking, if they were to static fire without the stiff limits on the RVAX, what would happen? So, Alex, I don't know if you could kind of combine them into one answer.
Yeah, so, when you fire the RVAX, because it has a really big nozzle extension, right? What happens is that the pressure at which the exhaust leaves the nozzle, with it being that long, it's too low. It's so low that the atmospheric pressure will try to constrain that flow in, right? And so what happens is this thing called flow separation. That is exactly, essentially what it means is that the flow separates away from the nozzle at the end, right? It's literally called like what it is, right? And the whole deal with that is that it seems silly that just that could damage the nozzle, but it does damage the nozzle because you have now this sort of flow separating away from the nozzle. It no longer pushes against the nozzle, right? But then it's not perfect. It's not like it's always going away. It's more like fluctuations that happens there, right? If you've seen a space shuttle slow motion ignition, for example, you might have seen the RS-25 engines wobble because they were built with big nozzles, but the geometry was enough, like at the end it sort of went in a little bit. It was not entirely all the time, and that oil event has stopped. So they are in propellant load. But I'm gonna finish this train of thought, which is what happens is that because you wobble the nozzle, if you wobble it too much, it can break, right?
So they don't
Because of that
have
flow separation that is going on there, because it's not something that just happens once. It keeps trying to push against the nozzle, and then the air pushes in, and then the flow fights back and pushes out. It's like a constant back and forth. Instead, they
Remember?
put the stiffener ring, which allows
That
them
one is
to not have
removing.
that wobble
You
break the
will
nozzle, essentially.
paste another one, okay?
Yeah, and oh my god, just look at this shot on the
Okay.
right here from the dunes. I mean, it's so beautiful with the oxygen just in front of the, just lingering around the launch mount. Just so pretty.
Yep. But yeah,
They should test at this time of day every day. Just saying.
see, the problem is that if we do that every single time they test, there's not gonna be a lot of people awake at this time. But yeah, so that oil event has stopped, and I'm starting to see the liquid oxygen line there. Those pipes that they have built on top of the booster quick disconnect is already getting frosty, so indeed they have liquid oxygen flowing into the ship, and liquid methane should be next.
Fingers crossed. And going back to chat, there was this question as well when we were looking at the roadblock. Tanarg stuff asking, is the sheriff the same guy since Starbase was incorporated? Of course, there's that election a couple of months ago. Starbase is now its own city, its own municipality. Alex, do they have their own police department? Will they be getting their own police department? Is it all still kind of under Cameron County? What goes on there with the road closures?
They have their own security folks there from SpaceX. But yeah, the sheriff is by the county, and the county has not changed. Starbase, when it was not a city, like the area where Starbase is, when it was not its own city, it was under Cameron County. It is still under Cameron County, so the sheriff is still the same one. Yeah. Although, I guess, it's like, it would be quite unfortunate if in the 3 months since Starbase was incorporated, they retired the old sheriff, right? Like, that would be quite a coincidence, just to make myself be wrong, right? Because it could have happened that Starbase got incorporated, and now whoever was the sheriff before got retired, and then they got a new one. That will be quite the coincidence, but I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah. And CMB is asking, are they testing this early so they can possibly roll it back tonight? Now, I haven't had a look at any roll closures. I don't know if you have, Alex, but, that kind of theoretically makes sense.
Well, right now there's no road closures for transportation, but they can post those like boop in a second or two. They have the website is now City of Starbase -texas.com/beach-road-access. Oh my goodness, SpaceX.
Right off the tongue.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, you can just do things without the dashes. Just City of Starbase texas.com/beach-road-access. That it's okay, but yeah, there's like too many dashes there. And so that's where they post the road closures for transportation. They even have usually like some kind of fancy like little text explaining what the transport is going to be about. So I would expect that to pop up there as soon as they finish testing Ship 37. But yeah. And yeah, there's a Cameron County website, but for transport closures, I have not seen them post anything. For testing, though, they do, because it involves closing also the beach. So, yeah. But the last transport closure on the Cameron County website was for June 3rd, 4th. I think that was Ship 37's rollback from Massey's when it did the cryo testing. I think it was that. I don't remember.
And just on kind of the right third there, we've seen that huge vent now spooling up once again. And Thomas is asking, why are they venting so much? Is it just cooling down the pipes? Alex?
Yeah, so you can see a lot of venting from the tank farm. We had seen a lot of venting from the OLM. All of that is just part of the chill down process. Although some of the venting from the tank farm is also, I guess, it's technically still chill down, but it's chill down of the propellant. So there are subcoolers, for example, where they have this sort of bath. It's literally called a bath of liquid nitrogen, and so they run the methane and oxygen through those with little pipes and everything, sort of like spaghetti kind of thing inside of the subcooler, and through that liquid nitrogen precisely to subcool, to get those propellants even cooler, boiling temperature, and so that nitrogen boils off and then it's vented out. So it's also, I guess, part of a chill down. It's just the chill down of the propellants, not of the tank farm. But yeah.
And we also, excuse me, we also have this excellent question from Bill. Thank you very much for the support, Bill. It is greatly appreciated. They're asking, would they activate the detonation suppression system for a spin prime? And Alex, as far as I know, the detonation suppression system was kind of installed due to the events that happened surrounding another spin prime. So I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, I will still expect the detonation suppression system be activated when they do spin primes. We see that for boosters. We see that. Well, we see that for boosters. We saw that, of course, with Ship 37 when it did its static fire tests and things like that. They also had the deluge for those. But yeah, I would expect the detonation suppression system. If they don't do a static fire today and only a spin prime, I would not expect the deluge system to be active. We also talked about yesterday that they didn't seem to have replenished the deluge tank farm. So even if they wanted to, they probably don't have enough water. Anyways, speaking of filling things, we can see there that frost line on the liquid oxygen tank, and the hose seems to not be dripping anything. That's great news, I guess.
They put some extra duct tape on it. But yeah, propellant load now underway. Things are looking good, and now we get into the more dynamic phase of the test, shall we put it that way. Let's introduce another voice on today's stream, someone else who knows quite a lot about Starship. Ryan Webber, good morning. I'm sure you're loving this time of day for testing, just like we all are.
I mean, I just literally got home from work, so, it's not too bad. But, yeah, they decided to go right away. Right after the scrub yesterday, they decided to just go right into it. But, hi, chat, how's it going?
Yeah, it is. Things are happening down in Starbase, and the lighting conditions are wonderful. The time of day, not so much. But anyways, we're live for the test nonetheless. Keep all of your questions and comments coming. Tag us in chat as always. We'll keep running through the queue. Ryan, the first question I'm going to toss over to you from Supersonic Retro Propulsion. They're asking, is it true Flight 10 is potentially at night? What do you think about that one?
Well, it's definitely going to be later in the day. I would expect somewhere around the 4:30, 5:30 mark. They want to do it in the evening, and the reason for that is because they want to have the ship, assuming the ship makes it, they want to have it land in the Indian Ocean during the day so that they can have their cameras look at the TPS after a reentry. So if it means that they have to go later, like into the night, then they go into the night. But if they go into the night, that also means they can't catch Booster 16, although I don't think they're going to catch it anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, it's all gonna just depend on what SpaceX's mission profile is. Look, I have a theory, right? I have a theory which means they have to catch the booster, which is that they need to catch the booster so they can use it as a demonstrator to make the booster horizontal, to barge it to the Cape so they can practice that. That's why I think they need to catch the booster. It is purely my own reality that it's based on, and there are no facts based on that whatsoever, but it's what I'm going to choose to believe. So yeah, I'm going to live in denial until we get a real answer. I'll put it that way.
I will say though, the windows that we've seen from the local notice to mariners that was released last week, they don't show any sign of a nighttime launch time. Like the window opens at 6:30 p.m. Central. That's still very much daylight. Because we were yesterday around that time, by the way, for the potential of this ship to be doing any testing, and even so, there's another thing to consider as well, which is the notice itself goes for longer, but the launch window, ends earlier than the end of the local notice to mariners. If it is just like the previous flights, and it seems like it is in terms of the window, it looks like it's going to be just a 1 hour window. So it will be like 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Even if it went at the end of the window, that is still 7:30
That's the
p.m.
wrong stinger. I shouldn't have done that stinger. That was the Flight 9 patch. Anyway, continue.
Well, I mean, we're still after Flight 9, I guess.
Yeah, well, at least I didn't leak
at
anything
least-
by accident.
Exactly.
That could have gone very
At least you
badly.
didn't do. At least you
Yes,
didn't do the one for Flight
You keep
10.
talking. I'm gonna fix that quickly. Make sure I don't do that again.
But yeah, as you can see there, the local notice to mariners goes out like 2 hours. It goes essentially to 8:30 p.m. Central. But that is not how long the launch window goes. That's the notice, right? And the reason why you want the notice itself to stay along for a little bit longer after the actual launch window is for two reasons. The first one is the rocket. You know, rocket parts may be raining for a lot longer than just a few minutes after launch, right? If it's in multiple pieces and whatnot. There's also the fact that this is a local notice to mariners, so things may be floating on the ocean for a while as well. Like for example, the booster, if it fails and then it drops into the ocean or something like that, debris may be scattered, etc., etc. Like, there are reasons why you want to have these notices to last for a little bit longer than the actual launch window itself. That's my point. And based on the previous, at least the previous two flights, which were also around the same time, they also had the same window length, around 2 hours or so. And yet, so the notice was about 2 hours long, yet the launch window was 1 hour long. So I would expect it to go from 6:30 p.m. Central to 7:30 p.m. Central. As to whether it will happen on August 22nd, I have my doubts, especially given yesterday's abort of Ship 37's test. But yeah.
And speaking of living in denial with boosters, Uday is asking, do we think they're modifying booster 12 for horizontal transport to 39A and then keep it for public view? I'll throw that around the room. What do we think they're doing with booster 12? Because it doesn't look like they're scrapping it, thank God, which was a concern for a minute there.
Well, I don't think it's going to be to test horizontal transport. I mean, they could be, but if you were to use a booster to test horizontal transport, use B-17. It's not going to be used for anything. And just do it so you don't accidentally drop 12 and break it. I want 12 to be saved like B-1019. Please and thank you.
And my answer to this is, I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just wait and see what they'll do. With this kind of things, is like they can do whatever. I would agree though that it doesn't seem like it's gonna be scrapped. If they wanted to have scrapped that, they could have done it right there in the middle of the bay. Because when they moved it into Mega Bay 1 from the Rocket Garden, we covered this on Starbase update, by the way. Plug there. Yeah, when they moved it into the bay, they just placed it where Booster 16 was located in the Mega Bay, right? If they had wanted to scrap it, it's like, why would you put it on a work cell station or something like that, right? Like, just scrap it there in the middle of the bay. Hook it up to the what's it called? The bridge crane
Yeah,
at the Mega Bay.
It's
Yeah.
early. It's early.
It's very early. So words take a while to come out of my brain and up my mouth. So yeah, the bridge crane, you can just hook it up, lift it, cut it in half, and then start, doing the cutting of each half and everything separately. But they did not do that. They just moved it to a workstation. So it's in the name, right? It's a workstation. They're doing work on it.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
I
Fingers crossed we see the results of the work soon, and that it's a positive outcome.
kind of hate this fog though, because we will not be able to see the engine chill. And the engine
Yeah.
chill is super useful to know when a test is going to happen, because it's usually around 20 minutes before the test. We do have the engine chill lines frosty, but the problem is they can be frosty because they are just filling it up with a little bit of the oxygen, but it's just not actually, actively going through and doing all of the chill down. It's just that it's filled up, right? I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. But it's really pretty. So you win some, you lose some, right? It's really pretty, but you can't see engine chill.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a look through here. We have a couple questions about catching things. First of all, Samuel is asking, do you think they'll catch the first V3 booster 18, or do water landings? And then Gabriel is asking, what are the stakes of Ship 39 being caught? That's the first V3 ship. Give me your prediction. I think we'll start with Ryan, and then we'll go to Alex. Get some kind of... I do apologise, it's my phone going off. Let's start with Ryan and then go to Alex and see what your thoughts are on that, with the booster and ship catching potentially first Block 3 maybe. What do you think?
They might catch Booster 18 off the bat. They may do a soft water landing because of how different the booster is compared to Block 1/2 boosters. There are a ton of changes with it, and they might want to do a basically a verification soft water landing first to make sure all the new changes check out for boost back, landing burn, control, all that fun stuff before they catch. So that's a kind of a 50-50. I'm still 50-50 on whether or not B-18 flies, because we'll see how much of a test article it becomes at this point. But in terms of 39, no, 39's not getting caught. Not at all. 39 is going to be a suborbital flight. It's a new ship with probably a decent amount of changes in the aft end to try to fix up a lot of the stuff that went wrong with Block 2. It's Raptor 3. Both are getting Raptor 3, which while it is still Raptor, there are a lot of changes with it. So it'll be its first flight test of that engine. There's definitely things that they'll have to work out, things they'll look through. I think the first Block 3 flight will be fully expended. A fully expended suborbital flight is my thinking, at least.
Yeah, I will say that the first Block 3 booster and ship combo, it's also going to be suborbital. And I think both will be doing splashdowns. And then after that, they can, do all of the... I mean, that being said, though, I wouldn't be surprised if at least with a booster, like, they are super confident enough that, they return it back. And I say that because, again, mentioning Falcon 9, when they did the, when they had the issue with CRS-7 with Falcon 9, right? That Falcon 9 sort of blew up in flight, essentially. That was a different version than the Falcon 9 that then flew afterwards. The return to flight was with the ORCOM Mission 2, and that one was the first flight of the Falcon 9 full thrust version, the V1.2 version, the one that is currently flying, although, now it's like Block 5 of that version. But anyways, and they did a return to launch site landing. They went to landing zone 1 with that booster. They went into orbit. They deployed satellites and whatnot. I know it's Falcon 9. It had already done 19 flights before and all that. But it is true that the boosters, I mean, if they launch with Block 3 and there's like multiple different logic gates and things like that where it's like, okay, it went through ascent, they had only one engine out or something like that on the booster, and then they do the go no go polls and things like that to return it back. Like they could have something like that and maybe just go for a catch of the booster or something like that. I will still say that it's more likely to have a splashdown of both stages though for the first Block 3. As what may happen on the second flight or third flight, maybe they do go ahead with catches. We'll see. It's too early to tell, especially given what happened with Block 2.
Yeah. Okay, so as we take a look at the ship, we are currently looking at the liquid oxygen tank, I believe, and they are working on filling that up. Next, we'll see the liquid methane tank. But there are a lot of people just waking up, and there are a lot of people who are just tuning into the stream and thinking, oh my goodness, they're already starting, ? Some people might be saying that right now. So Ryan, would you mind just going through and giving us a little bit of a rundown of what SpaceX has done so far this morning and what is coming up next? We're about 7:30 in the morning now, local time. We've got a lot of people asking, for example, Domino is asking, what do you guys think? Will they do Static 5 or they do Spin Prime? What's going on, Ryan?
Well, we can kind of do a full timeline here. So basically, yesterday at 4 p.m., SpaceX closed the road, or a little bit after, and they went and decided to try to do the Spin Prime last night. In the middle of prop load, though, one of the flex lines that go from the makeshift MacGyver booster QD hood monstrosity to the ship QD decided to spring a leak. And I think it was the main lock supply line that was leaking. So they had to abort the test, they had to detank, then they sent out 2 windy lifts to start doing some heat shield work, while a crane and a bunch of other lifts went out to replace the line. They went out, replaced the line, leak checked it, they all cleared out, closed the road, started chill down at like 5:30, and here they are with condensation on the methane tank, and they are loading the LOX tank, getting ready to do a spin prime. I say a spin prime because they did not fill the water deluge tank since the last time it was static fired. That is required for them to fire the deluge off at power. We also did not see the RVAC basically stiffener rings installed during rollout. So with those two things in mind, it is likely they are going to do a spin prime, not a static fire. So that's kind of where we're at. At this point, 8 o'clock, Alex? What do you think? Something like that for the test?
Yeah, they started engine chill about 5 minutes ago at 7:30. In theory, the T0 will be then at 7:50, but they always hold a little bit for a few minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to hit a nice 8 a.m. Test or something like that. Like maybe they hold for like 10 minutes or so just to make it to 8 a.m. Or if they are ready, they just do this at 7:50.
Send it.
Yeah. I guess, we'll see if we see any holds or anything like that. The very next thing that we should see, so I just mentioned the engine chill that occurred about now close to 6 minutes. The next thing should be the OLM vent coming back once they stop propellant load. Of course, propellant load is still ongoing. We can see there that frost line rising on the liquid oxygen tank. The methane tank, it has a very nice discoloration to it because it's cold now. I'm not sure if it has frost already though. Some condensation maybe, but at least that's for sure. And so once that propellant load wraps up, it could be essentially 3 minutes or so to a test if they don't do any holds. So we'll see what happens. We'll stay tuned for that. And of course, after the oil event will be the detonation suppression system, that mist of water and nitrogen under the pad before the spin prime.
Yeah, and we're seeing some venting there from the middle of the ship. That's absolutely normal. That is to be expected as SpaceX works to fuel up ship 37 ahead of a spin prime later this morning. Well, of course, still seeing some fog lingering in the atmosphere, in the air there, and we are also seeing that venting going off. You'll hear it as well. We've got microphones dotted around the pad with all of our different remote setups as well. So when you see that venting going off, you'll also hear it momentarily as well. Looking through here for some more questions, of course. For those of you just joining us, any questions and comments, just tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF if you don't want to type NASA Spaceflight. It's a very long channel name, very long handle, I will be honest. We have a lot of interesting questions coming in here about Alex. I will ask you first. We've been talking about static fires and spin primes. What is the actual difference between a static fire and a spin prime? What are we actually expecting with a spin prime?
Yeah, so when they do a spin prime, so I'll do the sort of the same explanation as yesterday, where it's like Raptor needs pumps, of course. Every rocket more or less needs pumps. There are certain that don't, but most of the liquid engines, liquid fuel engines, need pumps, and so there are 2 pumps on Raptor, one for liquid oxygen, one for liquid methane. Those are the ones that are spun up when they do a spin prime. So they essentially run the pumps, they flow propellant through the engine, but they don't ignite either the preburners or the main combustion chamber. Now, Raptor uses a full flow stage combustion cycle engine. It's a whole thing. Essentially what it means is Raptor has 2 smaller rocket engines inside. And those smaller rocket engines, they burn methane and oxygen in different combinations. There's one that burns oxygen and methane with a ratio that is higher on the oxygen, then the other is higher on the methane, or the other preburner essentially. So there are 2 preburners. One is fuel rich, the other one is oxidizer rich, and those drive the pumps essentially that allow them to be able to continue flowing propellants through the engine. For a spin prime, they only just inject high pressure gas to let the pumps run, and that's how they are able to do that spin prime. So what we'll see with a spin prime is just this huge cloud of condensation coming down from the ship as the pumps start flowing that propellant through the engine, and they just exit the engines. And for a static fire, again, they ignite the preburners. The preburners exhaust, then goes into the injector. From the injector, it goes to the main combustion chamber. To the 2 exhausts of those 2 mini rocket engines inside Raptor burn together in the main combustion chamber. That's where they produce the thrust of the engine, and then out the nozzle for a static fire test. So yeah, static fire test, you see fire, you see thrust, you see lots of that kind of stuff to be able to lift off ships and boosters. Of course, we don't want that to happen today, though. No liftoffs today of any ship or any kind, and we don't expect a static fire today as well. So if it happens, though, I mean, as I was saying before, I wouldn't complain, although I will be very concerned about that still.
Yeah, it would be rather concerning, let's put it that way, if there was an ignition when they don't intend to perform an ignition. When has that happened before, eh?
Oh.
And we have a great question here from ND. They're asking, if this is a spin prime, which we are expecting it to be, why do they fill it with such a large volume of oxygen and methane? Brian, if they're just doing a little test, why have they... It looks like they're going for like a full load of liquid oxygen. Are they going to do similar with the methane? Why are they putting so much fuel in it if it's not in the grand scheme of things, they're not going to be firing these engines for 3-4 minutes like they would in flight?
Basically, they follow a count. They want to follow their countdown pretty closely. So they just kind of always fill the LOX tank this much whenever they do tests like this. It is kind of weird when they don't do it for a single engine, when they load it less. I don't know why on that one. That's a question you'd have to ask SpaceX on why they load the LOX tank only a few rings for a single engine static fire, but for maybe even a 6-engine spin prime, they only load it for that much. It could be that they want a certain inlet pressure at all of the pumps when they run them all. So when they go to spin up the pumps, and Alex was talking about when they do a spin prime, you want a certain inlet pressure, because if your inlet pressure is too low, you run the risk of cavitating your pumps, which means you would literally destroy them and rip into pieces. You would get air bubbles that would form on the blade, on the blades and everything. And they would just start popping and destroying the blades and ripping the pumps apart. You don't want that. So it could be something to do with the fact that they want a column of liquid oxygen that basically presses down and creates a uniform high inlet pressure that they don't have to be worried about. It's possible that's what they want to do. Like a water tower, basically. Because water towers, it's like a column of liquid creates a pressure. So
Yeah. Just look how beautiful it is. I'm going to say it again. You got the liquid oxygen just flowing across the ground. I mean, it's just a very pretty test. It's a very pretty test. Horrible time of day, but the lighting conditions are, looking
you know
good.
what I miss? I kind of miss those early morning Starship launches. Like, can you imagine a Starship launch on a day like this? This morning? Like, it'd be like Flight 2. How nice
Yeah.
it is out.
Yeah, and we would have all been up all night, and we would all be very sleep
Yeah.
deprived, and we'd all feel, fresh and wonderful, and,
That adrenaline rush.
yeah. Yeah. Anyways, we're approaching 7:45 in the morning local time. Ship 37, for those of you just joining us, is getting frosty once again. We saw the tank farm spooling up a couple of hours ago, and the ship has started to being loaded with liquid oxygen, liquid methane over the last 20 minutes or so, and that is in anticipation for what we believe is going to be a spin prime test. Alex, do we know, or can we predict how many engines they might be testing with that spin prime? Do we think they'll just do a single engine, 6-engine? What do you think on that one?
Well, you never know with
Mami,
SpaceX,
¿puedo
but
creer?
given past instances of when this happened, because this very same thing happened with Ship 33 and Ship 35, where they needed to change one engine or two, and then they did a spin prime of all 6 engines. So I would expect all 6 engines on this occasion as well. And it's always nice, like it's not like a static fire, which may put a bunch of stresses on the vehicle and things like that. The spin prime is a lot nicer on the ship and things like that. So yeah, more data, more better. They may try all 6.
And the ship is it's really starting to come alive now. You can see just frost forming on the outside of the liquid oxygen tank there. It's really, if we were next to the ship, not that I think anyone should be next to the ship right now, but if we were, we'd probably hear it, creaking and bending a little bit as it starts to come alive, materials contracting and expanding with heat and cold.
I mean, the entire when you load all 5,000 some odd tons of propellant into a full stack, the entire stack shrinks by it's at least a few feet, I think, or like at least 1 or 2 feet. It shrinks by a lot. It's noticeable. If you were to do a time lapse and do like an A/B swap between a basically a non-filled full stack and a filled full stack, it's clearly visible how much it shrinks because it just gets so cold. It's actually kind of cool.
And we also have this question from Ian asking, why do they use methane for the spin prime test rather than nitrogen? Because we're not expecting an ignition, right? So surely if they use nitrogen, there would be no way for an ignition, and then Booster 7 wouldn't have happened. Or is that not how this works, Alex?
Well, we were saying before that they run the pumps, right? And the thing is, the pumps are sized for the methane, right? Methane is half the density of... So liquid methane is half the density, roughly half the density of liquid nitrogen, which means, or the same amount of volume of the pump, then you will essentially load twice as much mass of nitrogen, right? Of like kilograms, pounds, whatever you use as mass unit, right? So that means you're essentially not running the pump the way that it's supposed to run, because you're essentially running a fluid that is twice the density. And so you're really not you're cheating. That's cheating. You're not testing the pump as it should be. Like I know, it's probably too simple to say that it's cheating, but that's pretty much what will be happening if you were running liquid nitrogen through. You could do it. It's just that you're not testing it in the conditions that it's gonna run, right? So it's again, it's cheating. So, yeah.
And we've had a couple people asking about the flaps, such as this question here: will they wiggle the flaps for the spin prime? And we also had Merry Old Elf asking, I didn't see the flaps wiggle. Isn't that a standard part of their checklist? So we saw in the static fire testing they did originally with Ship 37, we saw those flap tests. They were very pretty flap tests indeed. Why have those things not been happening today? Are we expecting them? Is something broken? What's going on?
Maybe they just do that for static fires. I don't know. Rand, do you remember 30? I think it was 35. Doing anything for the spin prime?
Oh,
Flight,
I'm
or
trying
if
to
not,
remember if they
38
did a flap
is.
test for the spin
And
prime.
if not, then you gotta
I
hope
don't think
39
they did.
is.
Someone would have to go back and look. I'd have to go back.
You just
look
gotta
at
keep
the-
hoping
look at
and
that
hoping
stream and
that they
tell
figure it out.
Pizza says they did, so I'll trust Pizza on that one. I wouldn't surprise me if they did. Well, if they did it, then maybe that's a T-10 thing, 10-minute thing usually. So maybe we see it at 7:50 here, when the old event gets back on or something.
This
and then
weird
they
one about anyway.
test the
no one
flaps
knows.
here shortly.
It's weird doing this in a corner of a
Yeah,
room
we'll see. We'll
where
stay
basically
tuned
like you're
and
just
see
looking
what
around
happens.
and seeing, watching. I was hoping to get some special guests on the stream, but he's not turning up
Still
yet.
keeping an eye. How are they doing
With
on
his
that liquid
clipboard and
oxygen
his-
though? It looked to my untrained eye, it's kind of at the point of that black, kind of painted in area there. Is that where the edge of the tank is, or are they still got a little ways to go on the liquid oxygen?
It's
There's a
close to the top.
Yeah, it's close. It's close to the common dome.
She's getting angry now. She's doing short bursts,
Yep.
doing short vents. This time of day, though, I mean, just the sun, of course, rising over the Gulf provides some wonderful lighting conditions. You know, we're not being backlit, we're not being silhouetted. We're getting some nice shine, nice shimmer on those thermal protection system tiles there. Most of which are installed. Let's put it that way. Most of which are installed at this point. But yeah, we're still expecting them to roll back and do some work. Ryan, correct? Like they're gonna take it back to the bay, we think, and finish it up before stacking it on top of the booster.
Yeah, as you can see, there's still a lot of gaps in that heat shield. They've been using the little bit of time in between their tests to bring out some windy lifts or some aerial work platforms, basically, to go up and keep doing tile work to try to get as far as they can. But they'll have to go back, roll it back into the mega bay, probably place it back on a work stand, finish up,
Oh,
and
there we
there's
go.
flap testing. That's 7:50. There you go. So 8 o'clock or so.
Yep.
They'll have to take it back, place it on a work stand, finish off the tiles, get it onto a transport stand, load it with the sim links, and then hopefully roll it out maybe in a week and a half, 2 weeks. We'll see how much longer it takes them to do all that tiles, but there's still a decent amount of work to do. Like the catch pins are barely covered yet, and those are specialty tiles to take care of too. So
Just doing a quick little flap there. Nothing major, nothing crazy, but just hinging the flaps just one time. And we are seeing a little bit of a line there on the methane tank, but propellant load, to my understanding, will keep going until that OLM vent reappears. Am I correct in saying that? And then that will signify when the propellant load has concluded.
I would expect that old vent to come back shortly. It looks like we're getting a pretty solid LOX line here on the LOX tank. I would expect them to be finished very, very shortly.
It's almost already complete.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see there that thin frost line from the methane tank. That is where the top of the liquid oxygen tank is, and you can see the frost of the liquid oxygen tank. It's like just there. It's right there. It's almost all the way up, right? So
You know,
because the common dome is also the top of the liquid oxygen tank.
that's a decent amount of methane. Was there this much methane on 35 when they did it spin prime? I don't remember.
I think so. Yeah, they. One of the things that we notice is that they seem to load the ships, at least with Block 2, for spin primes, just as if they were doing a 6-engine static fire test.
Yeah.
So it can be tricky because it's like, oh, they're loading it like a 6-engine static fire, and so people think, oh, they're doing that. But yeah, that happened with 33 and 35, where we saw that, and it was not it's a static fire; it was a spin prime. So, and we still expect this to be spin prime.
Indeed. And we're just keeping an eye out right now. It's approaching the top of the hour, which is approximately when we expect this test to happen. So we'll just keep an eye out, of course, keeping an eye underneath the OLM. And there's a few things going on. I do have to say, I'm not sure if this was just the lighting conditions or not, but sometimes the lighting conditions do make the tank or make the frost appear more frosty than it actually some lighting conditions make the frost much more visible compared to other lighting conditions, and on a previous test maybe it didn't look like there was that much frost, but on a different test it looked like there was more frost, even though it was the same amount of frost. It was just the lighting. It all depends, because of course we have this kind of side lit testing window right now this morning with the sun rising over the water, so it all depends. We are just keeping an eye out. Of course, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. Let's look through here. I'm not sure if we have a couple more minutes just to hit a couple more questions, but we have Professor Dr. Frosin, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, is asking, do we have any clue on why the engine swaps were taking place like we saw in Starbase update, and why they have to spin prime again? Alex, very briefly, why are we here in the first place? Why has Ship 37 returned to the Orbital Launch Mount?
Yeah, they seem to have sort of swapped at least one engine on Ship 37, and when they do that, they want to make sure that the connections are right. At the very least, that not just that the engine and ship sort of this sort of connection between the engines and the ship, right? That it all works as expected, but also that the hook, like the way that they hook up the engines and everything, all of those connections and everything are good to go. So it's not just that, because the engines, they all get tested individually at McGregor. You can watch that at McGregor Live, our 24/7 stream. But also, additionally, the importance of testing those with the ship is that you can test also the interactions between the ship systems and the engine systems. The ship also is the one in charge of things like, spinning up the pumps, getting to light up the engines with the igniters and all that. But they have already done the 6-engine static fire test. They already studied that compatibility, if you will. It's called a qualification, an acceptance test, not qualification test, acceptance test. So if they only change one engine, they just need to make sure that engine is connected to the ship correctly, and they can do that by running the engines, the pumps. And so they don't need to do a full static fire test. That's why we think they do the spin prime.
Less harsher on the vehicle to just spin up a pump rather than ignite the engines. So
that too.
Yeah. We're just kind of in a holding pattern right now, everybody, because we think the test could happen momentarily. We're still waiting to see what happens with that propellant load. There's still some venting going on. Of course, there's condensation literally everywhere right now, with everything getting frosty. So we're keeping an eye out, just kind of holding on, waiting to see what happens. Fingers crossed we see something happening very shortly. But this is kind of the predicted time based on all of the different events that have happened prior. Of course, we just had that flap testing, and look, is that the OLM vent coming back?
Oh, there we go.
Yep, there it is.
So about 3 minutes or so to a potential spin prime test, right at the top of the hour then.
It is always funny to me when they open that OLM vent back up. You see basically
OLM
a
vent
waterfall
coming
go back out.
Oh, there we
That's
go.
because they
Yep,
are
there it is.
literally just dumping
So about
a ton
3
of
minutes.
just liquid. It's pure liquid oxygen out. It's not really even in gaseous state when it gets out of there. You see it as a cloud, but it's actually liquid oxygen that they're dumping out of that valve when they first open that thing up. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. So right now we are waiting for getting closer to potentially a test at the top of the hour at 8 a.m. Central. Seconds before that happens, we will see the detonation suppression system. The reason why they still activate those is because, as we were saying, they run the pumps. So that means there's oxygen and methane flowing through the engines. They just don't light up the engines. And you don't want all of that to be pulled under the ship, under the launch mount. So they have the detonation suppression system allows them to essentially sort of it just suppresses some of that. It removes some of that methane and oxygen from the environment under the launch mount, and if it were to hit some kind of flames or sparks or anything, you will have a booster 7 situation where it had a spring prime test without that detonation suppression system activated or even installed at the time, and there was a bit of an explosion under the launch mount. Can't believe they still flew that booster.
It helps basically add nitrogen and water, so it just basically adds gases and material around it, so upsetting any kind of stoichiometric ratio for any ignition, and just kind of disperses the gases. So it kind of help that out. And just to say, it's not the FireX. The FireX is an internal fire suppression system inside the OLM ring. Pad B will also have it as well, but it's a different system. So than that.
Yeah, and as soon as that detonation suppression system activates, we'll shut our mouths and watch for the test. We don't expect the deluge to activate, but you never know. Oh, was that it?
I think that was
Yeah,
a
I
vent down.
think that was the vent down. So we should see that detonation suppression system activation really soon, and then about 20 seconds later, a test. So we'll stand by here to see
Fingers crossed.
if, yeah, or maybe not. Come on.
Just waiting for those little water jets to get going. little garden sprinklers, you know.
With high pressure nitrogen.
I heard that side vent on the OLM. Is that venting from the ship?
Yeah, seeing a little bit of condensation kind of falling through the mount there.
Yeah, ship is venting.
That is interesting.
Stopped.
Yeah, it's venting from the oxygen tank. That's weird.
Trying to get the pressures right? Question mark.
Yeah, so that vent that we mentioned on the side of the OLM that we were like, oh, is it happening? That is usually the vent down that occurs at the T-minus 40-second mark, right? And for folks that have been around for at least the last couple of years, that is the point in the count where they can stop and hold for about 15 minutes or so. I don't know about tests, at least for full stacks, they can hold for about 15 to 20 minutes. For just ship tests, I have no idea how long it's that kind of thing. But they might be in a hold right now, right? Because we have not seen any test. That vent happens at T-minus 40 seconds. They may have actually tried to go through, and then there was some kind of hold. So we are expecting that as soon as that hold is lifted, that detonation suppression system will activate. It'll be very quick, like it's 40 seconds. It's not that long. But also that venting from the liquid oxygen tank concerns me.
Yeah, usually
Because-
they don't do a vent down and then vent out of the LOX tank. They usually don't do that. But we will wait to see and watch frost lines and things.
Oh,
Here we go.
there goes.
Oh, to see and watch frost lines and
And that looked like a 6-engine spin prime test. Lots of condensation, but yeah.
It's always funny with spin primes, especially when you can see it this clear as day. It's like, oh, the anticipation, DSS, and then
Look, it's at least it's not a Massey's. Look, folks, at Massey's they have a flame trench, right? You cannot see a spin prime unless you
Yeah.
really are looking under the ship, right? Like there's a little bit of elevation in between the ship and the bottom and the ground, and so you can see a little bit through there. But at least here it's different. At least here we were able to see that spin prime test. And yeah, I mean, we see that OLM vent coming back. That is a great sign that they are doing now all of the post-test procedures. Also the deep res vent as
hope.
well.
let's hope that this is the last piece of standalone testing this ship has to do, and they can launch it.
Yep.
Let's hope. Let's hope. Cross your fingers.
Yeah, if all went well, this should in theory be the last test before flight. So do all of your good luck rituals, folks, like, crossing fingers, knocking on wood, and all that stuff. That this was good enough for them to go for a flight.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
It's a lot better when, I should say though, 6 engines is not like 33. When they do a booster spin prime test, is a lot better. It looks so cool.
Which they haven't done a booster spin prime since since December 7th, December 7th of 2024 with booster 14. Yep.
Yeah.
They did a tanking test and then a spin prime all at the same time, basically.
Yeah, I somewhat remember something like that happening, and I was like, yeah. I was trying to go back in my own hard drive in my brain. Trying to go back to that.
I think Kevin Bradford has has the question everyone is going to be asking right now. So, flight 10 in 2.5 weeks? Question mark. Where do we stand right now? I'll go around the room. What do you guys think it's gonna look like right now with what appears to be, of course they haven't detanked yet, but what appears to be so far a good spin prime of ship 37.
Ryan, do you want to go first?
I was going to say you go first. I'm going to update my spreadsheet. I
It's
haven't
gonna
done
make
this tonight.
it's not gonna make it to entry.
Oh, you first. Oh, you first. It's like the lovers are on a phone. Oh, you first. You hang up first. No, but yeah, you go ahead and update your spreadsheet. I can run my mouth here on this answer. So, yeah, I would expect from the pad standpoint, we saw when they did the static fires and everything of 37, and they were trying to sort of remove all of the modifications and all that. We went through a timeline on the Starbase update episode that we released on Monday, and it was rather quickly, like within day and a half or so, they had already removed the adapter. They were already almost done with removing with installing the clamps, actually not removing, installing the clamps on the OLM. They have removed pretty much most of the pipes for from that are coming out from the booster quick disconnects. Like, from the pad standpoint, it could. I can see it being ready to accept a booster, so booster 16, pretty much within a week, if everything is correct, of course. So maybe like second half of next week, we might see a booster back on the pad. The big question is going to be the ship. The ship still has some tiles to be installed. You can see some of them missing on that heat shield, right? We expect also them to fly some more Starlink simulators. So those should also be installed and sort of loaded onto the ship. That might be more than a week. So it could be like a week and a half, 2 weeks until the ship is ready. If they want to make August, the last date will be August 28th because of not Memorial Day. That was in May or June, I don't remember now. But they have Labor Day on September 1st. And that is on Monday, and per their sort of agreements with when to close the beach and everything, they cannot close the beach on the weekends before either Memorial Day or Labor Day. So Labor Day, September 1st, it's a Monday. That means Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before that, they cannot close the beach. So that means the last day of August that they could be able to fly will be August 28th. So that's 15 days from now.
If you guys want to keep talking, I am going to work on putting in some replays here, because we have many angles to replay this test, and it's going to take me about 5 minutes or so to load them all in. So I know you love talking, Alex. So if you'd like to continue on having a conversation by yourself, and Ryan, I will get these replays in for all the wonderful boys and girls watching.
I talked a lot today as well, and then yesterday on the other stream that we did yesterday. But yeah, folks, we're pulling all of the different angles and things like that. I know it's a spin prime, but it's still interesting to talk about the test and look at the footage, because we only showed maybe like a couple of angles. There's more angles to this movie reference there. But yeah, also we are going to stick around for some of that detanking that they're doing on ship 37. And shout out to Ryan Caden. Like, he's not only commentating, he's also pulling the levers, pushing all the buttons. He's doing double duty here. He's commentating and also operating the stream. So yeah, because it's too early, so certain people were still asleep. Yeah.
Not naming any names. Not naming any names.
No.
Let's say that it may be rhyming with Egan.
Ray Segan.
Ray
Segan. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What we didn't get today? We didn't get a cloud report from Kevin Michael Reed.
He's also EP. Yeah, he's also asleep.
Yeah, he's
I think.
EP KMR, maybe. I don't know. We need a cloud report from someone. But
There are too many clouds. There you go.
There you
There's
go.
lots of clouds on the ground, not a lot of clouds in the air. That's good. Right?
Even the ship created its own cloud with a spin prime.
Yeah.
I just see a great
Nearly
question.
done loading in these replays here, so stand by. I'm not saying that to say that. Like, I'm literally working on getting the replays in, so please stand by.
I did see people asking, like, will they try at least get Ship 38 tested? And it's a great question. It's just that, unfortunately, the answer might not be that satisfactory, I guess, which is we don't expect Ship 38 to be tested next. The expectation is that they're going to be doing, like, removing all of the modifications and everything and preparing for Flight 10. Especially based on the notices and everything, they seem to have an intention to fly this flight. for a lack of redundancy, I guess, there, to launch this flight test within the month, essentially within the month of August. So, yeah.
Looks like we're getting a little bit more venting there. But in the meantime, why don't we take a look at some of the angles we've had running? Of course, thanks to you guys' support. Might not see a lot in this one. Let's call this one our safety angle, just in case anything happens. You know, you never know. But there is a spin prime happening. I can confirm there is a spin prime happening. It's just very small and in the distance.
Is there? I don't... Oh, there's the little... You can see the puff of white. A little bit.
Yeah. So another. There we go. That's another angle. Ooh, we need to. Yeah, we need to level that camera.
It's meant to be playing, but it's not playing. I press play. Why is it not playing?
It is. It's playing.
Oh, it is.
You mean-
It is.
It just looks real slow.
Yeah. I thought it was frozen.
I mean, the ship kind of just... I don't want to say the word, but, you know, it just kind of... Yeah. Puff.
Oh, same camera view. One is a replay, one is the live view.
And whilst we look through these, we had another question from Michael, which is a good question, I think. Do we think they're going to wait around to convert the launch mount back this time? Or are they going to do it straight away? If anyone wants to...
Start convert. Oh,
sorry.
you mean where I'm literally in the process of doing a few things. Converting the launch mount right away. They'll likely just, like, as soon as they detank, I wouldn't be surprised if 37 is off the mount by the end of the day today. I would not be surprised at all. And then having a rollout closure just pop up for probably tonight. I wouldn't be that surprised. It rolls back to Mega Bay 2. The LR11K rolls over either during the night or tomorrow. Takes the stand off, and they start converting the pad right back. I wouldn't be surprised if they go that quick. So,
What do you think, Alex?
I hope they wait at least a couple of days to make sure that everything on Ship 37 is actually fully ready for flight before removing all of the modifications. But you know, when they tried to remove all of the things and everything, they did it pretty much right away. Like, as soon as they removed Ship 37, within a day, they had already removed the adapter, for example, and things like that. Like, they just went in and started removing things and starting to put everything back for a full stack configuration, essentially. So once Ship 37 is off this pad, they may as well just do that. They may just, you know, do it very quickly. But there we can see that 6-engine spin prime test that was conducted about 15 minutes ago. I think it was 8:03, right, when it happened. So
yeah.
bit under 15 minutes. Yeah.
Bit of a wider angle here from the dunes. You can see the DSS lighting up. Well, not lighting up. The DSS is there to make sure nothing lights up. Let's put it that way. But the DSS activating more rather, and then the kind of woomph of the spin prime. There we go.
And again, the left-hand side is the replay. Roughly 14 minutes ago, that 6-engine spin prime test. As expected, that's what we were sort of expecting for today's test. And then on the right-hand side, that is the live view of Ship 37 as they begin that detanking, draining back all of those propellants from the ship, and hopefully we get a road, the road open maybe in the next couple of hours. It usually takes about an hour, hour and a half to detank the ship, get it into a safe mode. Then the SpaceX teams and the police go down the road, make sure that everything is safe, and then they open the road. So once that happens, I know our field teams are probably going to rush out and get some of their cameras or something. I have no idea if they have any cameras out there, I'm going to be honest. It was so early that they probably didn't leave anything out there.
This is currently the status of the roadblock. There's like one sheriff, a couple of pickup trucks, and then some guy just doing some groundwork in a digger. So it's not exactly the most active the roadblock has ever been. There isn't like a booster transport stand waiting to be rolled out to the launch site after a launch, right? Those were just... I'll continue showing the replays, but that's just the current status of the pad. We also have this super wide view, by the way. This is what we call Skycam. It was originally destined to look at the sky when they were doing the first booster returns, and now we just leave it as this little kind of locked off wide POV camera, which is kind of cool. We usually have it next to the production site, which is really useful when they roll things by the production site entrance, because it's really wide. You can see it driving down the road. Anyways, Spin Prime. Let's talk about the Spin Prime. Let's also talk about some support, because these cameras, of course, would not be possible without all of the support you guys have been giving us over the years, and we are, of course, so grateful for it. First up, English, Plutonium 239. Thank you very much for the $5 super chat. Imagine if they put the naked Starship on the test stand on the OLM. Man, that would look extremely weird. Yeah, thank goodness they never decided to put Ship 26 on the pad. That would just literally ruin. Humanity would have ended that day if they ever did that. And Moody is asking, if they can't release the Starlink simulators on this flight, how do you think it will affect the re-entry/flip? I'm not sure of their maths, so I'm interested. Ryan, do we know how much they weigh? Because that's an interesting question. Could it impact the center of gravity of the ship to a degree where it would kind of negatively impact its flop dynamics? I don't know.
It would definitely be adding basically a counterweight to the top of the ship compared to the aft end. It is one of those things you gotta consider if they do end up deciding to try to bring payloads back from orbit. How well would the flip work in that case? I think that the Raptor engines definitely have enough power to overcome any kind of counterweight, but I would be kind of curious to see how the flaps would have to adjust to the extra weight and whatnot, because the ship could easily be an extra 75 to 100 tons heavier up in the front, and that's not nothing. That's a decent amount of weight up front compared to the whole vehicle. So I don't know. That is kind of one of the things that SpaceX will have to figure out if they want to bring payloads back, or if for some reason they want to bring a ship back but weren't able to deploy it, because it is definitely an issue, especially since they can't open the door. So, you know.
I believe we might have a special guest joining us with their reaction to the Spin Prime. If you would like to make yourself known, Mr. Chris Berger.
Live on remote location from just down the road from where I live, but in an hospital. Yeah, I'm. Well done, everybody. SpaceX, typical. We went through the night last night, waiting for this Spin Prime, and it was all sad because they aborted. And then suddenly, during while I'm going through some tests, I suddenly see notifications on my phone when I'd leave a room that actually has 5G, and I'm like, oh, thanks SpaceX, thanks for that. But didn't they do a good job, chat? Come on, chat, they did excellent. I've been listening. I managed to do the Bandicam tweet for the Spin Prime test. Full of radioactive tracer, which is, if you ever watch The Simpsons, where is it Burns? He goes, "I bring you love." That's me right now. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, that's an interesting situation now, because if that all went well, this should be the last big test before Flight 10. The next thing they'll do is they'll take the ship off Pad 1, they'll roll it back, they'll finish off the TPS, they'll demod Pad 1, and then they'll bring out the 2 vehicles for full stack. And then we can release the patch, which is what every mission campaign, that's the big thing. Not the launch, it's the patch release, isn't it? That's the big thing. Everyone
That's what
agrees.
SpaceX waits for.
More important than the launch.
Well, that's what Gwen Shotwell puts on her LinkedIn. No one knows about this. She goes, all I really care about is when NSF does their patch release, because I've been trying to get a leak out of Chris Bergen, but he won't tell me what it is. But it's a really positive situation if the test went well. It's hard to tell, isn't it, Alex, if the test went well. It's a spin prime test. It's impossible to sort of get indications that something went wrong. But the main thing is the ship didn't go boom, and hopefully they'll get it off the pad and give out some tweets. Usually SpaceX do tweet, like the static fire test, which went well, because they did a test, then suddenly now that gets replaced, so it's hard to know, but we'll keep our ear to the ground and hopefully this is the last big test before we see a full start back on the pad once they demodify it.
You never know. I know, for Ship 35 they did not do this, but sometimes they do. Hang on, is that... Okay, no, it's just turning around. For spin primes, they have at least tweeted a couple of times in the past. They call it a chill and spin. I don't know if it sounds familiar to you, that we call it a spin prime because that's sort of the technical term, but they also call it chill and spin because they chill down of the engines and then they spin up the pumps, so they call it chill and spin. That's funny. But yeah, they've done it in the past where sometimes they have tweeted about it. Just who knows? Maybe they do that as well today. I have no idea, to be honest. But if we see those modifications, as you were mentioning, right? Like we expect now the ship to be taking off the mount and those, all of those modifications that they did to the pad to get removed. And if we see that, and then we don't see them again stopping and putting all the mods back and all that, like we saw last week, then that should be our clue that they are indeed going for Flight 10. As to when, that is the big old question, I guess. We'll see.
I like
Chris,
Chill and Spin. I like Chill and Spin. It sounds like an 80s rap group like Salt and Pepper.
It does.
Well, Salt and Pepper will be SP, which is Spin Prime.
Oh, there we go. There's always a link.
There you go.
Yep, uh-huh.
But yeah, Chris, when do you think Flight 10 might happen? I'm gonna switch this around to you.
I'm hoping end of August, but if it pushes into the first week of September, that's not terrible. We're already nearly halfway through August. Because people hear end of August and they go, oh, but that's 2 weeks away. So that's asking a lot, isn't it, really? We know SpaceX will not cut any corners now on these vehicles. And I'm not saying they did beforehand, but the rush, the urgency. Ryan, it's not there, is it? Because they've got 2 more Block 2 vehicles to go, and then the next one, Flight 12, will be a whole new ball game, and on Pad 2. It's not like the Pad 2 is sat there waiting for a vehicle, and like they've got Block 3s lined up in the production bay waiting to come out. They've got a long way to go with that anyway, so they can take their time with these next 2 flights, really, can't they?
Well, I don't think they want to take their time with this flight. If they truly wanted to take their time with Flight 10, they wouldn't have done this.
Meh.
They would not have done what they are doing right now. If they wanted to take their time and it didn't really care when it flew, then they would have waited for Massey's to come back online. This shows that they want this flight as quick as possible. They want the heat shield data. They want at least a successful flight of Block 2 to help with design of Block 3. And I say to help with the design of Block 3 because while we have seen the QD design and other things for the booster, we have not seen a single lick of Block 3 ship. We have not seen the arm off for the QD arm, at least the actuating hinge arm that has the ship QD plate on it. We've only seen like bits. We only saw like maybe one little dev piece with some docking hardware. It was a 2-ring. That's all we've really seen. I think, and this is what I think, it's just me, I don't think their design is finalized yet for their QD and other things. I don't think it is. I think they're hoping for a successful flight so they can finalize a few design choices for Block 3 and move forward and then start really building those vehicles. Otherwise, why have they not started stacking these things yet? Why haven't they? Is my big question. Do they need more modifications for work stands? Are the pieces not ready, or do they truly not know 100% what their finalized design is for Block 3 of ship? I think it's the latter. I think they don't know yet. And I think that's why they want to fly 37 as quick as possible, because they want a successful flight out of the way.
What you're missing is that they're going to do Starship V3, right? They'll do, like, I don't know, 6 flights of that, and then it will break, and they'll be like, don't worry, just wait for V4, and then they'll do V4, and then do, like, 6 flights, and then it'll break, and don't worry, wait for V5. I understand SpaceX wants to make progress, but there is this little voice in the back of my head slightly concerned that it's going to be 2035, we're on Starship V12, and they're like, don't worry, just 6 more flights, and we'll fix it.
Hey, we want robots to Mars. Remember, Elon did say we got to send robots to Mars. So I keep saying it, Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm always optimistic about where this is going. I know they've had issues, but what a surprise! It's a test program with the world's largest rocket. You're going to have issues, and they're going to shake them out. So I'm positive about the future, and once they do get the sweet spot of having a design that they're going to have for, say, a few more years. I know they've got these variants where they keep increasing the size and what have you, but there'll be a period where it'll be like 2 or 3 years of the same kind of vehicle launching at a good flight rate to the point that they're like Starlinks almost. And that's the vehicle that can do these initial missions to Mars and what they require before they then beef it up and go for an extra version of it. That vehicle I'm thinking of will be the one to be launching from several launch sites, including Cape Canaveral, including KSC, and that's where these streams won't be. We're going live for a spin prime test. It'll be like we're going live again today for another launch. It's going to be crazy, and I honestly do believe that while you won't get the crazy amount of numbers you get for the launches we get right now because they're big events, I still think there'll be enough interest out there that it's going to be almost like a TV channel for us, and I think there'll be a lot of people interested because you can't get bored of this vehicle launching. It is a visually amazing vehicle to watch launch.
The biggest thing, and they need a bright spot this year. I mean, I will say this: their pad infrastructure teams they're killing it this year. Pad B looks amazing. 39A is making a lot of progress. It looks like they're getting started on 37. Roberts Road and the Gigabays are going good. Their infrastructure team, they are top notch right now. They are going and going and going. The ability to rebuild Massey's this quick, to modify the pad this way, to get this testing done. The booster team has had a very good year. They caught their boosters or done some testing with them. They've already reflown a Super Heavy. They've already done that. That's in the bag. That's a huge milestone. Then you get to ship. Ship this year has utterly failed. Utterly failed. It's 33 blows up, 34 blows up, 35 uncontrolled reentry, 36 blows up during testing. We don't know what's going to happen with 37. They're 0 for 4. It's one of those things that's like, yeah, the booster's working great. Yeah, the infrastructure's working great, but the program goes nowhere unless the Starship gets figured out. This program is going nowhere until they figure this vehicle out. And the hope is this is a successful flight, or if not, 38 is. And if not, then you got to hope 39 is. So you just kind of keep hoping and hoping that they figure it out.
Sorry, it's my fault. I should be speaking now.
It's fine. It's early. There's
weird.
anyone about anyways. No one knows.
It's weird doing this in a corner of a room where basically, like, you're just looking around to see. Is anyone watching? I was hoping to get some special guests on the stream, but he's not turning up yet. With his clipboard and he's shaking of his head, saying, "Sorry, mate, that's going to cost you." It's like a garage. But yeah, this is. a situation now where they'll start detanking it probably now. I mean, I assume they are offloading already, Ryan.
They should be. I'd seen the methane line's definitely going down. The LOX line, it's hard to tell when it's going down because they put so much liquid oxygen in it that the frost kind of stays for a while, and keeps the tank nice and cold as they detank and depress it. So eventually you'll start seeing that frost line go down, but they are definitely detanking. So.
Very good. I wonder if SpaceX will do a tweet for this one. They did one for the... I'm thinking they did for the rollout, didn't they? I think they did for the rollout.
Not for the rollout this time around.
Oh, right, okay.
No, they didn't do it for this time around.
No, they.
I think this
for,
is...
Well, for the second rollout, yeah, they did not do that. Yeah, for the first.
I think
one.
this is a oops. Let's test this again and get it back into the debate quick before anyone notices.
That's
Spoiler
what I was
alert,
going with.
We
Yeah.
noticed. Spoiler alert. We see a ship on the pad.
That's
That's... Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Go, Alex. No, I've got less important things to say.
I was thinking it would be amazing if they did a rollback actual tweet instead of a rollout one, where they say Flight 10 ship heading back to production site or something like that. In preparation for Flight 10, something like that. I have no idea. Like, that sort of SpaceX lingo, usual tweet that they use.
You're both going for what I was going for there. It's that, SpaceX, when all rocket companies do this as well, by the way. They always want to put out a positive spin. And that's where this test isn't kind of the positive spin, is it? It's like, oops, we've got to retest the ship. Well, let's not publicise this too much. But I'm kind of hoping we'll get something from SpaceX. Maybe when it's back in a production site, maybe it'll do a generic one where it says, right, we're potentially just weeks away from a launch. I don't even if they do that. I'm trying to think of the next thing SpaceX will say. That's what I'm going with. What do you think? What do you think the next thing SpaceX will say on the path to Flight 10?
My guess would be booster rollout.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Booster rollout, which when they roll out the booster, that'll probably be we are targeting this day with a Flight 10 update. With crossing the fingers, the explanation of what happened to 35, at least a little bit, but in-depth explanation after 35. And maybe, if we're lucky, an explanation of what happened to 36. I would love a more in-depth thing of what happened to 36 if they actually found out exactly what. I mean, we know what a COPV blew up, but did they figure out why it happened, kind of thing? I think that would be cool to include. Will they? Probably not. But I think the next big thing from SpaceX will be rollout of the booster plus a post about the flight happening soon. So that's what I think.
Fingers crossed we hear something shortly. Very quickly, we have just got a little bit more support in chat, so of course we're going to go around and thank everybody, because without the support, this literally would not be possible, and I'm not over-exaggerating there. We have more cameras than I can count on my fingers out in Starbase right now. It's kind of bonkers. But Garrett, thank you very much for the support. They're asking, when/how should I book my tickets to see the launch? Is there a method that we use? Me and my grandma are planning to see our first launch in person. What I would recommend, first of all, our friends over at the Rocket Ranch there. I think that's the closest public viewing that is available. So if the chat box can do the ranch command and get that link in chat for Garrett, I believe that is the closest you can get. There's also viewing at Isla Blanca Park on South Padre Island. I think, off the top of my head, that's like $5 entry fee to park up. Also, it's something along those lines. Those are your kind of the two best options for actually viewing a launch. And to get to Starbase, it's a little ways out there. So depending on where you are, if you're close enough to drive, then you probably could drive. Or if you want to fly in, there's Brownsville Airport, there's Harlingen Airport, and you can get car rentals from there as well. So those are the places where we usually fly into and watching from our various sites. If Das is down there, he'll probably be on the hotel roof again. Jack might be out at the outpost, but yeah, just depends who's where and when. And we also have some support from Bill. Thank you very much for the $10. Why not eat a couple of Tesla bots in some containers with mass protection onto Mars so they can start running around having dance parties without a ship? Well, it's going to be interesting to see how Optimus actually fares going to Mars, because how should I say this nicely without getting the entire, kind of Tesla fan base behind me? It's only really been tested in controlled environments so far, I'll put it that way. It hasn't really been put out into the real world, let alone a different planet. But I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. Even if they make Mars 2026, it's gonna be tight.
I think they're hiding some. Well, not hiding. They're just not showing off. But I think the tweets and the clips and the videos they put out there are unfortunately just bots dancing and serving drinks at bars. And it's like, I'm sure there's more to these robots. And I think maybe they've got the infrastructure of the robot, so it's humanoid and it's got all the joints and what have you. But they've not yet shown off what it's capable of doing. And things like this potential idea of sending them to Mars is where they really show off the technology. I'm sure there's more to it, because we've seen dancing robots and standing at bars for years now. There's nothing amazing that they've put out there yet. So I'm sure they've got something else there, because we do know these companies involved, Tesla and SpaceX and the whole AI thing and what have you, it's something people miss. Everything that Elon's kind of like created, even the Boring Company, it's all kind of like got an angle where it would be applicable to Mars. Remember, they're going to want tunnels on Mars. They're going to want that kind of like under the surface. We've seen Mars Base Alpha, the way they kind of dig it into the ground and do it that way. So everything that Elon's kind of been thinking of that has branched off into its own kind of company could be applicable to Mars. And we know how focused Elon is on Mars, because the whole making life interplanetary, or multiplanetary, I should say, is massive on his head, massive in his brain. So I really do think there's a potential matching that lines up with the schedule that Elon has on creating a civilization on Mars. That is exciting, I must admit.
Indeed. Andrew, thank you for becoming a Padrat member in the last couple of minutes there, and of course thank you to everybody in the membership program. But Alex, I believe we are now starting to see the signs of detanking on the liquid oxygen tank. That frost is kind of starting to recede a bit. So, as it stands, they've got a long testing window today. Do you think they could squeeze something else in, or do you think they want to kind of get the ship off the mount as soon as possible?
No, I think, as you said, they probably will just want to get this off the pad ASAP and just, start all of those modifications. I get back to a launch configuration, right? So like removing the pipes, removing the adapter, closing out all of the connections between the booster umbilicals and the pad infrastructure, and then close out all of those different openings that they had made on the booster quick disconnect hood, that sort of protection there of the booster lines and whatnot. So yeah, I think you'll just try to get all of those things back into a launch configuration, and I don't know, maybe by next week this time we might see a booster on the pad. We'll see. I think a week and a half for a booster back on the pad is probably not that unrealistic.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for joining us today, Alex, talking all things Starship, the Falconologist, talking Starship ologist. I don't know. Doesn't really roll off the tongue like Falcon does. But thank you very much for joining us, Alex. Also, thank you to Ryan Webber for hopping in for the last, over an hour now. Thank you very much for joining us, Ryan.
The pleasure as always. It's always fun watching Starship testing, even if it is just a fart under 37, right? It's
a spin prime. It's a spin prime.
Spin prime.
Technical language, right?
It's just a cloud. Yeah. Anywho, been fun.
And Crispy, thank you very much for hopping in for the last few moments here.
Well, you don't need to thank me. I've done like 10 minutes. I felt guilty because, I must admit that I didn't need to pop in. It was just really great work from my team again, and it is really a pride point for me that I can miss something like this when we started the stream. We're already frosty on the vehicle, and everyone's got the game face on. It's really great team we've got at NSF. So thank you to you guys for making sure we covered this, and it wasn't just all like some Bandicam clips from Starbase Live, which I really would thought it would have been. So well done, everybody.
Thank you very much. And of course, thank you to everybody in chat for joining us today. Thanks for all the support, and fingers crossed we see some exciting flight-related activities happening very shortly. But for now, my name's been Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.